there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to.
Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Rebel Alliance. And apologies for the weekend. Weekend was a little crazy around here, so I wasn't able to do a live. And then yesterday we had a nasty storm come through New England. So between power outages and water and everything, it was a little crazy around here. So it didn't happen. But today, I figured, hey, we jump on a little early. Usually I do these shooting from between 12 and 1. I'm not quite sure what the best time is, or maybe a little later in the evening. But we're on the Facebook group, we are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. So if you are watching this live, please let us know where you're watching from. And as always, this doesn't constitute legal or tax advice. It's just one person's opinion on the subject matter at hand, which has to deal with associations as always. And we throw in some prepping stuff in there too, or self-sustainability. But somebody shared a video with me a couple days ago, and I wasn't going to comment on the video, and I'm not going to say who put up the video or anything like that, but it had to do with associations and then rules, regulations, statutes, policies, that sort of thing. And are they laws? And they basically were giving some bad information. So myself and the ladies over at the PMA manifesto, we're constantly trying to battle, worthless information that's being put out there by these other people. And, if I don't know the answer, I go and look for it. If I don't know 100% what I'm talking about, I try not to talk about it. I try not to just, say, hey, some dude in some obscure corner of the internet was talking about this, and so it must be true. And I get into a lot of these conversations with the the sovereign citizen movement, the state nationals, stuff like that. And it's just some of the stuff that's being pushed on some of these platforms, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or some of these Facebook groups. You wonder why more people aren't getting in trouble with the nonsense that they're pushing. So that being said, as always, if you want to at any point in time, feel free to head over to the East Coast PMA, or I got to start putting up the link in here for the PMAmanifesto.com. It's the PMAmanifesto.com, and you'll get great content on either places, and you can find other things like our DIY templates and stuff like that, and scheduling consultations with any of us. So let's get that off the screen. I'm having fun with this live streaming stuff. So got 2 viewers right now. Awesome. I think that's the most we've had. Now we've had a few more than that, but feel free to drop a comment at any point in time or let us know where you're from. And so I'm going to share my screen here. Now, this is a screenshot from the video that was shared with me. And basically, let's see if I can add this up here. So let's see if I can get my computer to work. So you have this here, and this is one of their screenshots. And so it talks, it cites some cases in here. It looks really good, right? It talks about that, where is it? Statutes only apply to state created creatures known as corporations, no matter whether creatures of the state and offices of state, local, and federal government. And it's from this case here. There is, where's the other one I pulled up that I thought was pretty interesting? Statute is not a law. Codes and statutes are not laws. Where is, do I not have it in this one? Anyways, there's another one that I'm going to pull up here, and I think they have it in here. They talk about a radon gas. Why am I not seeing it? Anyways, it must be in a different slide. So I started looking at the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. They've sound like they know what they're talking about. And so you start looking at this stuff and people start taking it as fact. Most people don't do their own research. Most people don't, have access to either Westlaw, LexisNexis, or CaseMine, even though CaseMine can give you some free stuff, or even Google Scholar, or take the time to look up some of this stuff. So all these documents that I have will be on the eastcoastpma.com as a post. You'll be able to download them, read them for yourself, see what I highlighted. And, let me know if I'm wrong with what I'm saying. But basically what they were going through and saying, let me pull up my other document here that I needed for my notes is, and that's not it. Where is it? So basically they were talking about different case laws, and then, the private, quote unquote, private jurisdiction and stuff like that. And so, okay, I'm just going to read this for what it is, just to make it a little bit easier. So, statutes, codes, and rules are legal instruments used to regulate and govern various aspects of society at the state and local levels. While they all play a role in creating and enforcing laws, they have different characteristics and functions. So, they basically were covering statutes, codes, and rules or regulations, so to speak. And they, the one thing they said is, which was kind of contradicting in the whole conversation of what they were talking about, was that case law does not apply to private jurisdiction because it's public and from the bar association or out of the public jurisdiction, or out in the public jurisdiction is what they were saying. And yet you listen to some of these people and they'll say, oh, well, this law says we're private and we're separate, or this case. So in one instance, they want to use case law to support their narrative. In the next instance, they're saying, no, case law doesn't work. So like I said, today we're going to put some of this worthless information to rest. I know. Super excited. So am I. Anyways, just playing around with some of the sound effects. So a statute basically are laws enacted by legislative body, and such as legislators or city councils. At the state level, statutes are often referred to as state laws, while the local level they may be called ordinances or local laws. And I'll put all this in the blog post. I'm not going to read all of it, but codes are organized compliance of statutes or laws that pertain rather to a specific area of law or topic. And then rules are also known as regulations or administrative rules, are specific guidelines and requirements created by administrative agencies or bodies at the state and local levels. Now, I will give you the fact that I don't necessarily agree with like rules, like and I'm trying to not use words here that will get me booted anywhere, but like when there was face coverings in school, we're going to look at one particular case that deals with that. And the thing is that what they were trying to say is that this information or what they were putting forward had to do, with these cases here, that it had to do with the fact that, because you have an association, laws don't apply to you, or rules and regulations don't apply to you, or statutes don't apply to you. And that's not the case. We have a republic. We put people in position, usually by voting, depending on how you see things over the last couple of years. And then those people are our representatives to enact laws for the general goodwill and public, to continue thriving, right? And not be completely lawless. Now, I am one that feels that our government needs to be leaner and less intrusive. And unless I'm hurting somebody, then I really should just be left alone. And that was, so what they were saying, some of their points, like if you are a massage therapist, well, why do you need a license to give massages, right? And I can see the arguments from both sides, but what I don't want people to take away from this video, if they happen to come across it, is that what they're saying is absolute fact, and that the cases that they're citing are being cited correctly. So let's dive into some of these cases. Let me just shrink that down. And the one that they do talk about here, let's see if I can pull it back up, is they talk about a Supreme Court decision that all codes, rules, and regulations are for governmental authorities only, not human creators, in accordance with God's law. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lack due process. And they were talking about Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan, U.S. Department of Labor, and this will all be cited on the blog post. So when you go over to eastcoastpma.com, you'll find the actual text of the case. You can read it for yourself, see what I highlighted and what have you, make your own decisions from there. So, and they were talking about the Constitution, and they were talking about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, and stuff like that. And it wasn't, and I'm not going to get into the Constitution today. I think that might be another video, but basically they were just taking stuff out of contents. And so here is let's bring this up here. Here is the Ray Donovan case. And I will send anybody a 1 ounce of silver. I'll send anybody 1 ounce of silver if they can go through this document here that is from Westlaw, the Ray Donovan case, and find where that case states that all codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, not human creators, in accordance with God's law. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lack due process. And if you can find that in this document or any actual document that has the case file in it, um, maybe there's some interpretation, but looking through this document, I could not find it. Even when I did a search online through Westlaw within this document, and this, um, let's see, basically, you can read the synopsis here. It has to do with Secretary of Labor and termination of a workman's compensation benefits and so on and so forth. So that clause that they cited in when they were doing their video just doesn't exist. So again, bad information, worthless information that could get somebody going down the wrong path, or into some of these, we'll call them quote unquote common law groups, which, yes, there is common law, there is statutory law, there's all those different types, tort law, trust law, there's different aspects of law, but you want to make sure that if you're using something, you're using it properly. And this is what really drives me crazy sometimes, is in some of these groups that I'm in, you hear people start talking, well, I can do this and I can do that, or the whole like driving without a license. And there's all these cases that back it up. Sure, yeah, there is, but do you really want to waste your time fighting with the road pirates? Stuff like that. So, anyways, if we go into this next case, which wasn't part of their talk, I don't believe. I just kind of came across this. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. So this is Nix versus the Cedar Springs Public School, and this has to do with the wearing face coverings in school. And this guy was doing it pro se and filed the complaint. And hats off to him for doing that. I think more people should have, but at least do it right. Understand the rules and regulations of court, and the processes and how everything works. Now, if you go over to PMAmanifesto.com, you can find a link over to the Juris Dictionary, or How to Win Without a Lawyer course. I highly recommend it for anybody who wants to know more about common law and procedures and how to actually win things in court without hiring an attorney or anything like that. So as we go through here, we see that he wants to amend his complaint, and because he just basically didn't follow the federal rules of civil procedure, and starts talking about the court's jurisdiction and stuff like that. So here's the first instance where we see Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan, U.S. Department, and that's the case that they were citing. And when you come up here and you read through this, it says he amended the complaint beginning with non-essential restrictions, nonsensical, of notice to agent, notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. And you will see this key quotes here repeated on end when it comes to state nationals, when it comes to some of these other so-called common law places. And it's frustrating because some of the information they put out is really good, and then the other information, they kill it with stupid stuff like this, that when you put this in your documents, you look like a moron. I don't know how else to put it. And I'm sure I'm going to get some flack from this from the YouTube community and other people that watch my videos, and because I do talk to people that are state nationals, and hey, listen, if that's the path you want to go down and you want to follow Anna Von Reitz and all those other people, and go for it. I'm not telling you what to do, but just look at everything with an open mind. And that's what I try to do. So I'm like, okay, if this is working and it works for everybody, then why hasn't it worked for more people? And then I try to not necessarily find the faults in it, but making sure that people are doing it correctly. So here goes into what he has for his, 5 torts. And then it comes down here where, he's basically saying that the school does not have the authority to enforce emergency orders under this Michigan code. I think it was Michigan, right? And gathering and face mask order, right? And I'm all for this. I think more of us should have pushed back during it. I think most of us just kind of connected with more of our, our friends that are like-minded and homeschoolers and stuff like that. So anyways, he then amends the complaint to also include non-existent quotes. Non-existent, right? And they just told you, these other people out there that talk about PMAs, that this Ray Donovan quote, that, where is it again here? Let me pull it up. That the Supreme Court decision in this case said that all codes, rules, and regulations are for governmental authority only, not human creators. In accordance with God's law, all codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional, lack due process. I'm putting in words they don't belong. So Now, here's another court case. And if this guy actually followed the rules of civil procedure and was doing things properly, he probably would have had a better case doing it himself. So, again, this is why I tell people, if you get into this stuff or you don't have the funds to hire an attorney, or if you're just interested in it, go over to How to Win in Court Without a Lawyer or the jurisdictionary course. Dr. Grace puts out a fantastic thing over there. Maybe I'll have him on one day as for an interview, but at least you understand. And he goes over everything like affidavits and stuff like that, and their purposes, and what evidence is, and affirmative defenses, and everything like that, and how to answer a complaint, how to file a complaint. Like, he goes everything, and it's like at an 8th grade level, so everybody can understand it. And if this guy did this, he probably would have had a better thing. So, anyways, here's the quote: all codes, rules, and regulations for government authorities only, not human creation, blah, 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 blah. And he cites the case. But again, they say it was non-existent quote. It doesn't exist. So, and then we can go through here and you guys can read all this. It'll be on the website to download, and again, see, he's just not doing things correctly. He amended his complaint and fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. So again, if you can't, have that relief which can be granted, then they can dismiss the case on their end. So, anyways, and then basically there's some other citations here that you can go through and read this. But so here's one thing where they state this in their video, and then again, right here we just prove that it doesn't exist. It's not, it's made up. It's pixie dust, so to speak. And then they talked about, let's see, here was the other one, but the Colonial Pipeline Company, that statutes apply only to state created creatures known as corporations, blah, blah, blah. And we go here to that case. And again, this will be on the website for you. That's a little bit too big. So we come down here, and when you do stuff with Westlaw, it highlights certain keywords for you and stuff like that. So let me just scroll through here and see if I can find what I was looking for. Yeah, there was no word of state creature or creature through here when I did my search. So that was another one, and that didn't have any merit to it. So again, another case they were using, which was completely worthless. And again, I'm going to post all this stuff so you guys can go through it, and please let me know if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I will tell you I'm wrong, like I did when we released the PMA manifesto. And let's see, this one here is the TOT one. So if we go back here, where is TOT? All right. Let's see, the constitutionality. A statutory presumption cannot be sustained if there is no rational connection between the fact proven and the ultimate facts presumed. Now, this one is actually correct. So, but you have to read the whole case, and it has to do with a guy that was convicted. He was released. He bought a gun, and then they try to connect him with another crime, and then the whole presumption of statutes. So the thing is this: if you have a statute, and this statute, I'm trying to find my mouse with my one good eye because I still haven't gotten the cataract fixed here yet because I can't get it until January, so it makes it hard to see what I'm looking for. There we go. So if you have a statute, a code, a rule, regulation, whatever you want to call it, if it is itself is unconstitutional, it doesn't fall within the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. Let's say they tell you that you can't talk. I don't want to use that one. Let's see. So let's just say, freedom of speech or freedom of association, right? Because that's what we talk about here, association. So let's just say you are meeting at your house on your private property, right? It's not public property, which is run either or maintained by the town or county or state level or what have you, or federal government, right? So there's a difference between public property or public land versus your private stuff, which is just for you. So let's just say you're meeting and they say, hey, you can't meet with more than 5 people. Well, no, I'm meeting privately. We're doing something privately, which goes with the right of association that is outlined in many different court cases and within the Constitution. So no, that is unconstitutional. So if, like the guy we were just looking at in that Nixon one, or Nix, if he had understood the rules of civil procedure, filed his paperwork properly, didn't put in all that other mumbo jumbo that made absolutely no sense, and actually filed a complaint saying that, hey, listen, you are violating certain constitutional rights here. Maybe, uh, with the whole wearing of the face covering thing, that he probably would have had a better case showing that it is unconstitutional. So when you look at this case, when you go on to the website and you download it for yourself to look at, let me bring it in here so I can see it a little bit. We can go through and we can see sections where it talks about presumptions, interfering with burden of proof. And here it is right here, a rational connection between the facts provide and the facts presume, and the comparative convenience of producing evidence of the ultimate fact are not independent tests of the validity of presumptions created by the statute, but the first is controlling and the second is only controllery. So as you go through this case, and what Westlaw does is they bring in like little constitutional law things, and they tell you a little bit about it, and they tell you where it comes from, so you can check all this stuff like I do. Oh man, I'm tired. I need a little sip of coffee here. But what you'll see as you go through this and you actually read the case, what they're saying is that they're trying to connect this guy with this handgun that he had purchased, and I think it was like 1933, 34. So it's an older case, but the way they're stating the presumption or statutory presumption or the connection between things when they're talking about this here, as they read it and then in their video and they kind of try to explain it, but what they're not doing is they're not telling you about the whole case, and this doesn't apply in my personal opinion. So maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. Let me check the chats. I haven't checked the chats. We got some comments going on here. All right. So greeting Red 5 standing by. Thank you, Wizard, out of North Carolina. And we got somebody from Missouri, the D Frozen Dog. Thanks for coming by and checking out today episode. Appreciate it. But anyways, so as you go through this and you read this, you'll see that, yes, there is the statutory presumption. And I am not 100% versed on this. This is something I haven't really tackled yet, but I figured I'd pull this case up so we could at least look at it. And basically what they're saying is that he had 2 crimes of violence, a burglary, assault and battery, with the intent to beat, wound, and ill treat. And this was in September 20th of 1938. And then as you go through, basically the respondent testified that he had at about the time of his arrest picked up a revolver when it was dropped by where does this go to? Sometimes these are a pain to follow. Dropped by the power of Congress. No, that's not right. It's so much easier to read these online because it actually flows. I don't know why they put it in these 2 columns, because then you have to figure out if it goes back up to the top, which it doesn't. So it's just good. Does it? Oh, I don't think so. No, it just follows through. So here again is where it states the government argues the presumption created by the state meets the test of due process. So basically what had happened is what had happened was that the state there's 2 tests of 2 alternative tests of validity to this. And basically with the revolver and the evidence that was provided to which to see if he was guilty or not. Basically, the first test is that there be a rational connection between the facts provided and the facts presumed. Second, that the comparative convenience of producing evidence of the ultimate fact. And so you can go through here and read this. And again, it's basically they're talking about how laws forbid acquisition of firearms without record and transaction required, blah, blah. So it was like a firearms thing in that aspect. So I'll leave this up there. So maybe I'll dive into this a little bit more, but the way they were explaining it, and again, if you search codes, rules, are they law, you'll probably come across this video and you'll just see that what they're talking about is not within context. And so the other thing I found looking around and poking around and, all right, we got 4 people on. Thanks for coming by the Rebel Alliance and watching another episode. I appreciate it. We get a lot of more views on the podcast or the audio version, but feel free to drop in any questions or regarding associations in general, or let me know where you're watching from. I always like to see how far of a reach we have, because I'm on the East Coast in Connecticut. So this is out of Massachusetts Practice Series, and it talks about unconstitutionality. And this is where I was just talking about if a regulation, code, statute, it says right here, the state administrative agency's rules or regulations may be held to be invalid because of its unconstitutionality. And this just goes into a whole section about unconstitutionality, rules, and regulations. So, yes, if you have something that is a statute that goes against the Constitution, you have to fight it properly and not putting in all that mumbo jumbo that this guy we looked at the case with face coverings out of Michigan or wherever the heck it was, the Knicks versus Cedar Springs public schools. When he was putting in that notice to agent is notice to principal and notice to principal is notice to agent. Trust me, go search that, see what kind of, and they start talking about the UCC and everything else, which is for commercial code. And that's when they bring in the whole all capital letters name, and it just turns into a hot mess. And you can see that if this guy had just followed the civil rules of procedure, or yeah, the civil rules of procedure, even at the state level, like your state courts, at the lowest level have, documents that show you courtroom procedures, how things can go, how many days you have to answer a complaint, what format it has to be, and all that stuff's there. And I always tell everybody, go to your local law library. There's a lady or man up there that's the law librarian that is an attorney, and they just do research. And you can say, hey, I'm looking for information on this, and they will provide you with a whole bunch of stuff because they have access to Westlaw if you don't pay for it. They have LexisNexis and all these other different legal spots that they can pull from. Plus, they have a crap ton of books up there that you can just pull and look through. So, if you need something, they'll have it there, which is very beneficial. So if you were looking for anything in particular, you can find that there. You don't necessarily have to, believe what you're seeing when it comes to. And I'm trying to find the other thing that I wanted to look at real quick. I don't know if I'll find it in time, but you know, there is there there's right ways of doing things and there's wrong ways. And a lot of this stuff's been pushed for a very long time, and even more so now that more people are looking at associations and the right of association. And more people are like, hey, listen, I just want to lean or less intrusive government. I'm maybe a little bit of an anarchist. I just want to be left alone. I'm not hurting anybody. Get off my property, so on and so forth. But if you are challenged, there's certain ways of handling those challenges, and you got to do it right. Don't just uh, research what you're doing. You don't believe everything you're seeing. Research everything I'm telling you. That's why I do this, to try to shed light on things where people are giving bad information. And the other thing too, like I have a digital copy of the jurisprudence books, right? It's all the different stuff in there, but it's only runs on like Windows XP. So I have to run like a virtual box to access it. So, go to your local law library and you can find all that stuff there. You can go and look up associations, and it will give you a whole section about unincorporated associations, unincorporated business trusts. You might even find like an outline of what needs to be in it. Just saying, you might want to check it out. So, that's all I wanted to really bring to, to showing everything today, is that you listen, just because there's some information out there, double check everything. Even my stuff, don't take it for face value. And there's not going to be a lot of preparedness stuff in here today. I really just kind of wanted to go over this stuff when people are talking about case law, how they're citing it. Again, they brought up the Supreme Court decision we saw in that one case that they're like, it doesn't even exist, but yet you can find documentation. I've come across it myself in different books that I've purchased. I was just going to look real quick to see if I have one here, but I don't. But where they cite this stuff, and maybe there's an opinion that I didn't read, or a dissenting opinion that says, hey, all rules and codes and regulations are for government authorities only. But I couldn't find it with that Rodriguez and Ray Donovan case that deals with the Labor Department and stuff like that. So, yeah, again, I'm going to put this all up on the website. So just make sure that you're looking at things to see if they're constitutional or not, and if they are unconstitutional, then fight it the right way. Don't use some obscure nonsense in the UCC and your all capital letter name stuff. And yeah, I know I'm going to get some flack for that, but we're just at about 30 minutes here. So I know we got a few people watching. I'm going to shoot over to Facebook real quick to the group to see if anybody has any questions in the Facebook group, because for some reason that doesn't populate on Yard Stream. I see that in only through YouTube. So let's see here. And I'm going to shoot over to Rumble real quick to see if there's anything going on over there that I need to take a look at, because I don't think I get well, we can't have that playing in the background. So no questions over there. Let me just jump back in here to Yardstream. So, all right. So we got a few people still watching. Let me know if you have any questions regarding this, regarding associations in general. And then I think the next video, we're going to go into the membership agreement, because we still haven't covered that yet, kind of what should be in it, what shouldn't be in it. And then we'll throw in, I've gotten some questions offline about, things I do for preparedness and self-sustainability. So maybe I'll bring the top 5 things you should start like yesterday, right now, simple things like water and stuff like that. But other than that, just be careful out there. Again, there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of bad information. If you haven't gotten the PMA manifesto yet, head over to the PMAmanifesto.com. You can get it over there. Download the PDF, take a read. We handle the majority of myths that are out there when it comes to this stuff. And then, when you are watching these videos online, like if it's on YouTube, you can leave a comment, ask questions about this stuff, say, hey, I couldn't find this, or where did you get this from? Because a lot of the stuff they'll show like slideshows, they'll do like some type of, death by PowerPoint thing, but they won't provide the actual documents for you to read. And that's what I'm doing here. Like, I looked up at just a handful of the cases that they were quoting, and I was like, hey, listen, I want you to have the best information that you can, especially if you are building a community like we have here in Connecticut and elsewhere that I've helped people. You start building these communities, people are going to start looking at the board of directors, the trustees, whatever you're calling yourself, the founding members or the founding trustees, as a point of authority. And if you're gathering with everybody and you're having a cookout, and let's say somebody from the health department shows up and says, hey, you've got 100 people here, you've got 200 people here, you can't be feeding all these people. You're going to know, time out. I have an intimate association. We're not open for public accommodation, and we have exclusivity who our members are. You need to leave, that sort of thing. You got to get some of this verbiage down and understand exactly what your rights are when it comes to the first 14th Amendment and so forth with the Constitution. And, I am hoping, because I've gotten some questions. We don't have any questions right now on YouTube. So I'm going to end this up in a little bit, but I am working on getting somebody on here that is over across the pond in Australia, because I've gotten a lot of emails lately and phone calls about stuff over there as far as associations. And it's really different. It's different between the US and Canada. It's different between here and Australia. So I'd rather have somebody that's familiar with the Australian Parliament and laws over there and how they form their associations, as opposed to me trying to half-ass it, so to speak, which I don't want to do. I want to make sure that everybody has really good founding documents, because that's what you're going to rely on should you be challenged, just like we have a couple groups here in Connecticut being challenged. And again, we're going to hit them with that general statute that says, no, we're a religious organization providing education to our members' children, and we're not providing education to anybody else. So based on your statute, again, here's an example of why we want to use everything to our advantage. Here's a statute that says I can provide education without being licensed through the state. That is huge. And there's a few other states that are like that. I've done a video on it. Maybe you can take a look. But let's see here. One more shot for questions. No more questions. We're at 34 minutes. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate you tuning in, and let me know if this time works for you all, or if you'd like something a little bit later in the evening. I am trying to get as many people on here as possible, and luckily my phone is not in the room because it's ringing in the other room right now. And I will see you all tomorrow on the next episode. Peace.
Uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.